It was about 5 years ago now, I read a book called Why We Sleep by Dr. Matthew Walker, which opened my eyes and showed me why so many people today are struggling with sleep.
You might have heard the saying, early to bed, early to rise makes a man healthy, wealthy, and wise. But how true is it? In this video, Barbara O'Neill talks about how a good sleep is a hack for a healthier lifestyle. She goes over the do's and don'ts of a good sleep and what actually goes inside our brain when we're sleeping. Her lecture is based on a famous book written by Dr. Matthew Walker called Why We Sleep. Dr. Walker is a neuroscientist and professor of neuroscience and psychology who has spent many years researching how sleep affects our health. In his book, Dr. Walker discusses the scientific discoveries about sleep and draws on his many years of clinical experience and research to illustrate how sleep can be used to elevate mood, boost energy, and improve our ability to learn. He also emphasizes the significant role that sleep plays in regulating our hormones and preventing diseases.
And he commented, he said, it's almost as if sleep has an intelligence. And if I were to talk to him, I'd say, it does have an intelligence.
So while our bodies may be resting while we're sleeping, our brain never sleeps. In fact, the brain is very active during sleep, and it needs us to stick to an 8-hour sleeping schedule to maintain its functionality and keep us healthy. Years of research have associated a bad sleeping pattern with a less healthy lifestyle. And one such study found that as people started to sleep less than 6 hours, and the number of fast food chains such as McDonald's increased, more people became obese.
Dementia has been documented as coming from lack of sleep.
Lack of sleep leads to calcified plaques that are visible in patients with dementia, and that's just one of the many mental illnesses associated with lack of sleep. So how do we make sure that we're making the most of our sleep to stay in best shape? There's not one, but a few hacks that Barbara O'Neill shares that can help us get a good night's sleep. But before learning to hack a system, one must understand the system.
The pineal gland is an important gland because light and dark signals are fed through the optic nerve to a control center in the brain, and that control center, it communicates with the pineal gland. And because of the light and dark signals, it releases 4 hormones in the night.
So the pineal gland is actually a very tiny gland located deep within the brain, but has a powerful role to play during sleep. There are 4 hormones that the pineal gland releases while we sleep, and one of them is serotonin, which is fairly popular amongst hormones as it helps keep us in a happier mood. The second one is epithalamin. That helps the anti-aging process. The third is arginine vasotocin, which is said to be the body's natural painkiller. And lastly, we have melatonin, which is famous for its rejuvenating properties. All of these 4 hormones play an important role in regulating the body's health. And Barbara O'Neill gives us easy hacks to access these hormones.
So the best way to access these is to go to bed early, make sure you're well hydrated, make sure there are no stimulants because taking stimulants can cut the release of these hormones in half.
Turns out that going to bed early can actually make a person healthier. Besides that, making sure you drink enough water during the day and avoid stimulants before bed is also important. But in this day and age, where most of us fall asleep while watching movies or scrolling through reels, how can we avoid this stimulation? We'll discuss that later in the video. Let's head back to understanding the brain's activity during sleep. Years of research that started in the 1940s or 1950s revealed that the brain and eyes show activity at the same time. What that means is that when the brain is active, the eyes move rapidly, and when it is less active, the eyes don't move so quickly.
There was a 90-minute cycle which changed every night. Every 90 minutes there were changes. And what they found is that when the brain was active, the eyes were active, even though they were closed. And when the brain was fairly still, the eyes were still.
So the part where the eye moves rapidly is called the rapid eye movement, or REM. And the part where the eyes don't move very quickly is called non-rapid eye movement. Both these cycles have different processes going on during their time.
And there's a basic saying in neuroscience that nerves that lie together fire together.
The rapid eye movement cycle helps to file memories. So Dr. Matthew Walker found that all the good, positive memories are stored in the same area, whereas all the bad, negative memories are stored together in the same area. This explains why when we experience something bad, all past bad memories start to flash in front of our eyes. Barbara O'Neill also states that this is where our brain becomes a scientist and inventions happen. Another thing Dr. Matthew found is that dreaming plays an important part in the decision-making process of how our memories will be stored.
There's no limit on how we think or what we think in the middle of the night.
During the non-rapid eye movement, the short-term memories get converted to long-term memories through a process known as memory consolidation. Short-term memories travel from the short-term memory storage unit, which is the hippocampus, all the way over to the long-term memory storage unit, which is the cortex.
There's a courier service that takes the memories up to the long-term storage unit.
What that means is that what you're learning right now from this video is being stored in your hippocampus. And when you sleep, it's going to make its way towards the cortex. Another very important thing the brain undergoes during the non-rapid eye movement is the cleaning of the brain. This is when our brain gets rid of toxic substances through a system called the glymphatic system. So it's pretty obvious that deep cleaning of the brain is important. But exactly how important? A research conducted in 2020 reported that the glymphatic system's clearance of toxic substances plays a major role in Alzheimer's disease. And since most of the waste clearance happens when we sleep, it only makes sense to not skip out on sleep.
What Dr. Matthew Walker discovered is that the brain cells shrink at this time. That's excess fluid going around the brain cells. And there's a system called the glymphatic system. And the glymphatic system is your brain's vacuum cleaner system. And the glymphatic system does a cleaning of the house through non-rapid eye movement time.
So the glymphatic system cleans out neuronal waste, which is left behind by activities such as the combustion of oxygen and glucose inside cells. Not only that, but the glymphatic system also clears out negative emotions. So not only does this natural vacuum cleaner get rid of waste from our brains, but it also plays a part in our emotional well-being. How do both these cycles work together? Let's say you have an ideal sleep schedule and sleep from 9 p.m. to 5 a.m. That's a full 8 hours of sleep. So from 9 p.m. to 10:30 p.m., which is the first 90 minutes, the non-rapid eye movement takes up 80% of the activities, and the rapid eye movement takes up only 20%. From 10:30 p.m. to 12 a.m., the non-rapid eye movement takes up 60% of the activities, and the rapid eye movement increases its activities to 40%. When time moves on to 12 a.m. to 1:30 a.m., both the non-rapid eye movement and the rapid eye movement share equal time and both take up around 50% of the time. 1:30 a.m. to 3 a.m., the rapid eye movement gets the lead by assuming 60% of the activities, and the non-rapid eye movement activity falls down to 40%. The last 90 minutes are marked by rapid eye movement, and it takes up 80% of the activities, and non-rapid eye movement just takes up the remaining 20% of the activities. What this tells us is that both cycles work in harmony with each other and are equally important to maintain your physical as well as cognitive health. This is supported by Dr. Matthew Walker's mention of a study in his book where 20 students were supposed to learn the same thing. They were separated into 2 groups with 10 students in each, and one group was given 6 hours of sleep every day for 3 months, while the other group got a full 8 hours of sleep.
And the ones that had 8 hours sleep a night, they retained almost twice as much information as the one who had 6 hours sleep a night.
So now that we understand what the brain does while we sleep, let's talk about what we can do to improve our sleep quality. Barbara O'Neill talks about some to-dos to ensure that we sleep well. These are staying well hydrated, getting enough sunshine, sleeping in a room where there's good ventilation, and an often overlooked factor, which is comfortable bedding. She also talks about not using your phone when you wake up in the middle of the night or use that to fall asleep.
Now, there are things that will definitely stop sleep. If you wake in the night, can't sleep, the worst thing you can do is look at your phone. Because remember what those devices are giving off, blue light? Yes, it's a different frequency to the sunlight, so you won't get the benefits of sunlight, but it's similar enough to give your brain the message, daytime, wake up!
The other thing Barbara advises us to avoid is the chat room, which is an endless train of thought that keeps us well awake past our bedtimes. But if we don't use our phones to fall asleep, we'll go to the chat room. So how do we escape this never-ending loop and fall asleep peacefully? One technique that Barbara discusses is a breathing exercise, where you inhale for 5 seconds, hold it for 3 seconds, and exhale for 5 seconds. This helps us calm down. Another way is to practice gratitude and count your blessings.
In her book, The Science of Sleep, Adriana Huffington, she says, a great thing to do if you can't sleep is lie there and list all the things you're thankful for.
Even if you start counting sheep and it gets you out of the chat room, you should start imagining a sheep farm to help you fall asleep. So does this video help you understand how to leverage sleep better to be healthier? Share your thoughts in the comments below. We're gonna let you sleep on it.